Okay, so today we're joined with Daniel. So Daniel, you can hit off if you can just introduce yourself, obviously name, location, possibly age, if you don't mind.
Of course, yeah. So I'm Daniel. I'm 25, originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And right now, at the moment, I'm in Mexico, Playa del Carmen,
Cool.
escaping the Toronto winter. And yeah.
Nice. So do you do that every year or is it a new thing?
No, I just decided to take a leap of I don't know, just take the plunge and try it out, see how it is. Mostly working, so not really enjoying
Sure.
the hot
Yeah.
weather, but
Working with your e-commerce business, I'll take it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's just because Toronto, especially with the COVID restrictions, I decided, especially if they go back, it's kind of
Sure.
a little
Gives
bit.
you more flexibility as well in Mexico.
Yeah.
Nice. So e-commerce has given you the flexibility to be a digital nomad.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the best part about it, the flexibility.
Nice. Good. You probably got everyone's interest already. You live in the typical guru lifestyle.
Right. The travel lifestyle.
Yeah. So let's pique everyone's interest for the next question. As I mentioned before we started the call, there was quite a few requests for asking about numbers and where you are at in your e-commerce journey. So how much revenue did you generate in your peak month for your current store?
So the current store, I started 6 months ago, and my peak month was actually just last month, and it was 70,000 in revenue USD.
Cool.
And the profit margin was about 25%.
Nice.
So it's a pretty good profit margin, and for the month it was pretty good. It started off a little slow, and I would say that especially in the next coming months it's definitely going to do better. But I would say it kind of like e-commerce is really funny because one time you'll be doing like let's say like 2,500 a day, and then all of a sudden the next week I was doing 4,000 a day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, and that was like mid-September. So I was just you're blown away by the growth, considering standard like brick and mortars or different businesses take very slow steps, and also the profit margins, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Not only the revenue, it's the margins take a hit, particularly if you're doing paid ads, CPA adjusts and everything.
Yeah.
So that was my next question, what your profit margin was. So you've answered that already. So how many orders does that equate to? 70,000 roughly.
About 70,000, I would say. It would be over 1,300 orders.
Okay.
Around that ballpark range.
Cool.
And the profit margin. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. That's all right. Go ahead.
No, so the profit margin was really good due to I was doing spending the same amount of ad spend, and then all of a sudden it started hitting bigger numbers. So that's why the profit margin. But my profit margin, I would say, an average in the past 6 months has been around 20%, around there. It's really hard, especially with the iOS 14 changes.
We'll get to that.
Struggle, then it's really hard now. I feel like you're competing with a lot more, and you have to spend more to make more as well with that.
Considering 20% is still pretty good, for an e-com store, particularly with paid ads. So let's go back a bit. So what's your background? I mean, before you started e-commerce, what was you doing before that?
Well, I was actually in school. I was a university student. I was doing marketing, and I was
nice.
I was doing business and marketing, and then I was basically doing that. And after COVID, it was sort of the perfect storm because I had so much time on my hands that I decided, hey, maybe I should look into some side businesses or look into e-commerce. Because so the story is, I actually had my girlfriend has a friend who has a huge brand, right? And it's worth over 200 million.
Nice.
And obviously I'd hang out with him and I was like, this guy's very successful. And then he started by drop shipping, which is hilarious. But now he has this huge brand, and I never thought how simple like it really is broken down. And that was 4 years ago for him. And now it's a huge brand that he can exit out of and be set for
Sure.
life.
So
I
is
found,
that's kind of what got you into it, knowing this person who
yeah, exactly. So he told me, and then well, he would also say like, oh, like you I feel like you kind of would be good at it, just like based off my. I don't know if he was flattering me, but
well,
but
obviously
yeah,
he was right, wasn't he?
yes.
So out of interest, what niches does he?
Oh, he has a fitness scale.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's in the fitness niche. So now like they can do a watch or they can transition onto other products as
Sure.
well. So like they've made it into more of like a health and wellness brand promoting wellness and body positivity sort of thing.
All right. Well, enough about him because this interview is about you. But so back to when you was in university. Did any of you those? Because obviously people would argue that academic skills and practical skills don't really go together.
Yeah.
In the sense that you have to, if you get a degree in whatever marketing in school, and then you start whether you start a store yourself or you do some kind of other advertising, it's not directly applicable to the real world. What did you find anything that helped you with from the academics transition into e-commerce?
You're completely right. It's not like, oh, you're doing well in school, you're going to do well in this. I feel like it's very different. They're completely disconnected. And honestly, I would have to say out of, as me, like what I primarily do is digital marketing. And I would say I was doing marketing. So all my courses were marketing. I would say some things did help me in terms of just understanding, like the 4 Ps, basically the basics of marketing and stuff like that. Thinking of it as like a science instead of just, like thinking as a customer. But besides that, I would say I learned 90% of everything that I had to do with e-commerce online.
Cool.
So,
and when you say online, was that like doing your own research, YouTube videos and?
Yeah, primarily YouTube videos, research, a lot of trial and error and trying it out and seeing what fits and what doesn't, and just like throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, cool. So if you didn't take that subject in university, would you say you would have failed in your ecom journey, or it didn't have that much influence?
I would say it had very little influence.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay. So this is really interesting interview because of who we've interviewed so far, you're the third client, and it's interesting because there's lots of coming from different backgrounds, and you're the youngest so far, not the youngest of everyone that are going to interview, but you're kind of like the ideal kind of person who's going to go into dropshipping. They're either at that point where they want to try it out, maybe they finish university or whatever, and it's great that someone like you who pretty much had no experience in it managed to be successful. So yes, glad that you managed to take the time to take this call. So let's move on to the next question. So when did you first? So your current store, was that your first?
Yeah, it was my first product actually. It was my first store. It was my first try at everything. I currently have other stores now with another partner that is doing bigger numbers than I am, and we're currently working on that. But this is like my primary store and the first one I started.
Okay. And did you say you started it during COVID?
Yeah, I actually started it. I started working on it, I would say beginning of February, and I finally started, like it was live by April 1st.
Cool. And just to clarify, not February this year, February year before.
No, this year.
Oh, it's this year. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. And how long? I mean, from when you started the store, how long afterwards did you find success in your marketing campaign?
Well, I would say I found very, very little success right off the bat, which I was kind of lucky for. Like, I got some sales right away, and it kind of motivated me to be like, wow, like this actually is real. This works, right? When you see the sales come in,
Yeah.
people are actually giving you money. And then I would say I'm one of the fewer rare cases where it was my first try and I kind of got lucky and it just started working. 20 days in, I was already hitting $1,000 days. And that was when I was like, okay, this is for real. Like I should put more time into this. And if it was only 20 days, like I can do something more. And I know that's not the case for everyone, because a lot of people, like my partner, he was doing it for a year
Yeah.
and he sold everything and he couldn't get it to work. And then 18 months later, finally he got his product. But I think it's a process. I got very, very lucky. But yeah, and then I started seeing some success later on, 2 months in. But I feel like as well as success, there was a lot of challenges that you reach a little bit more success and there's a huge other challenge and then you got to overcome
Yeah.
that to do
Just
that.
lots of obstacles.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, because the last two interviews as well, same thing, like they found success relatively quickly. And I've hopefully the fourth, the fourth interview, they'll say, no, it was a struggle. So at least it gives those watching this
Variation.
impression. So, I mean, obviously I don't want to paint a false picture, or we're not trying to paint a false picture that, dropshipping or e-commerce is easy, because it's not.
100%. Yeah, it's not.
But yeah, it's amazing that you managed to get it to work so soon, and you're still making it work. So going back to what you mentioned about your success, was it how many products in was it that you found success, that actually gained traction?
Well, my store was I remember I found the product and I thought this could be very useful, solve the problem. And I think that's important as well, thinking of it as a problem solver instead of, hey, like this is just a product I can sell. Sort of like, what does it do for the customer? I think getting into that mindset is very important. And I found that product and then I realized it was around $10. So I said, I can't make any money off of this. So then I added, luckily it was in a niche where I could add on products to link with them and make it into bundles and stuff like that and bring up the AOV. So eventually I added 3. Before I even launched the store, I had that one and then I just added 3. And then that brought my AOV up to about $55, which was doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. So I found it was right off the bat, and I have obviously like a bestseller out of the products, but I would say it's more of a bundle deal. Like,
yeah,
that's the store.
Okay, so I mean, so you could say it was your first product. You just optimized it to increase your average order value in order to make it work. Okay.
Yeah, because I realized I can't make any money off $10. I won't be making any money specifically with ads. I would say
CPA alone.
Yeah, exactly. You need to at least factor in I would say, to spend $25 on ads per purchase.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because when I first dropshipped years ago, we're talking 5-6 years ago, I was able to make decent profit on $10 products, and I could sell single orders all day long.
Yeah, the middle days, right?
Yeah, that just shows how much the difference in costs with ads is just crazy in comparison. And that's why it was so right. You could literally not put anything on there, but it was so much easier than it is now. Now you have to be a bit more creative. You have to, as you said, create proper bundles and think about the whole funnel before you not just sell anything and think it's going to work. Or if you are just selling one product, you have to obviously calculate, am I making enough profit? Can I sell this for a higher value or a higher ticket item? So yeah, the days of low cheap items, being able to make those successful is pretty much long gone, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And you can even see one of the biggest brands, if anything, they overprice their products. And you see even teeth whitening kits that people sold for $50 years ago. Now, like Snow, one of the biggest e-commerce companies, they sell it for $125 per kit.
Crazy.
So, and if you see a lot of the successful companies, they overprice by at least like double or triple what they used to do to make sure they get like, because you have to factor in the CPA and all that. And it's just very difficult, I feel like.
Of course, for sure. So what obstacles did you encounter up until now? Obviously, you probably have quite a few, but were there any, if you had to choose one or two, the main obstacles that just, tore your hair out and stuff, which would it be?
100%. The first one that comes to mind 100% is sourcing from China, specifically from AliExpress and CJ dropshipping and those types of third-party platforms that you use to dropship.
Sure.
That was the biggest obstacle, 100%. Just because specifically my product that I had linked with other products, the AOV being 55, I had like the average was about 4 products per order. And the problem was that every store, so in AliExpress, if you source it, you drop ship by one product, and then you have it fulfilled and you can automatically fulfill. But since mine were different, some stores didn't have the same products. So I had to go and use it and do separate products. So customers would receive 3-4 packages and it would look really bad. And I would get a lot of complaints. And as well as I had to manually go in and look at these stores and see which ones linked up, as well as which ones were lower cost and which ones had more of the products. So for example, store A had 3 of my products, but then maybe they didn't have the last product. So then I had to bring in another store. And then I was trying to limit the amount of packages. So I would have to switch up the store. So I would spend like, for 20 orders a day, I would spend like 2 hours fulfilling orders and checking the
headache. Jeez. So, okay. I mean, that's sort of quite an obvious issue to have. Was there anything aside from that, logistically?
Yeah. So first I started with AliExpress and then I moved on to CJ dropshipping. And I was dealing with agents, like they gave me an agent because I was doing an MOQ. And they basically gave me an agent and they would say, oh, yes, it's funny because I watched your video on, like, when I was first looking at Honest FulPhilment, you narrated it, right?
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So they would hit me with the, hey, dear, everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, it's been 12 days since they ordered. Like, what do you mean? And they would reply like 2 days later and they would say, hey, dear, yes, what order? And it was literally like the video. It was really funny, but it was really stressful. It was the most stressed I've ever been because the communication aspect is already pretty low.
Yeah.
And then you have about 2 hours with the time difference, depending if you wake up early or late.
Yeah.
And then it would just kind of run around in circles.
Drag on, yeah.
Yeah, and they would just say,
I think they have improved quite a bit since back in the days. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you haven't got like a good relationship or a good partnership, whether that's, a 3PL or a sourcing company or whatever, you're always going to run into these issues. And just to obviously put that out there, like disclaimer, we're not slagging off anyone. We're not saying any company is bad. Plenty of people have positive experience with CJ. So it's just obviously Daniel's personal experience. That wasn't the case. So that's just putting it out there.
Yeah, I think it's specifically even my agent. Like it wasn't her. It was there is a language barrier, so I understand that, and that's normal. But also just with CJ can be good. I've heard good experiences from other people that have done it. But just in my experience, it was just sort of, there was some issues with logistics and specifically because different SKUs that are going out in order. So it is a little more difficult. And that was the most trouble.
Yeah, it's probably just, as you said, not your particular agent that you had. CJ are absolutely huge. They have lots of processes in the background and things probably get mixed up and stuff like that happens. But anyway, let's move on. Did if you sell to the EU, did the EU VAT regulations impact you in any way? So that was July 2021. And do you sell to the EU?
Yes. So actually I would say my biggest country that I target, it used to be Canada and now it's the UK. So it did impact me. I would say before it was great because specifically if you're shipping from China, as you know, UK is the cheapest shipping country, right? So it was like pretty harsh at first and it was very confusing, I feel like, with all the information and the IOSS that was going on. But I would say it did impact a bit. I just ran the numbers. I looked at the profit margins and how they would change. What I did was I found that even if for example, my AOV, like shipping to Canada, is about 13 USD compared to the UK, it's 7 USD.
Yeah.
So even if you add another 20%, or Unexpress does another 22%, it still favors shipping to the UK and most European countries than doing Canada.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it was an easy decision, and as well with Unexpress, since they do DDP, it was very easy to do. I didn't even have to sign up or go into all that complicated stuff. You guys did everything for us. So
yeah. And just to kind of explain that further so the viewers watching this better understand it. So obviously, it's just first starting out, you calculated your margins based on Canada. And because Canada is one of the highest, the most expensive geos to send to shipping wise, that kind of, it favored you when you were selling to other countries because your profit margins were automatically higher. But with the EU VAT regulations, what happens is for the majority of the countries, if you send it, whatever you send there, you're charged VAT. It's usually, depending on the country, it ranges from 18% to 25% or something like that. The UK in itself, it's not part of the EU, so that's something completely different. But yeah, from the 1st of July 2021, what happens is Unexpress have their own IOSS number, their own VAT, so they would charge us the 20% VAT or whatever the cost it was on the product cost itself, not the sale value on your store. So automatically you're winning there, because the way it should work is that you should charge 20% VAT on your Shopify store of the actual total value of the order. So if you sell the total value of $100, you have to pay $20 VAT. But if you don't do that and you just use us and we use Unexpress, you just pay, say if your product cost price is $10, you're just going to pay the extra $2 in cost. So just wanted to make that clear. So same question, issues with the iOS 14 update. I know you mentioned it briefly before.
Yeah, it was a big issue. It was first because the ads manager now specifically tracking sales, purchases, add to carts, all those conversion all those events that happen that are tracked by the pixel on Shopify and Facebook. Is very difficult because those basically go down the drain. And now I would say about 10% of my events are tracked on the Facebook ads manager. Also, I was doing about, I think when it hit, I was doing about 2,000. I had just hit 2,500 a day. And then my sales after that dropped all the way to, I was basically breaking even and even losing money on for a couple of days.
Yes.
What I did was I had to downscale tremendously and lower my ad spend. And then eventually trying some new things, adjusting, modifying some ads and the marketing plan. And then eventually I was able to scale back up, but it definitely was harder. And I would say not as everything was as quick of a success. It took a little more time, and as well as trying different things, not the same ad strategies or marketing strategies that worked before work now.
Yeah.
And I would say specifically as a tip to everyone, I would say more broad strategies are way better than specific tailored audiences, or even, for example, interests. Now I would say broad is a way to go.
Cool. Okay. So would you say the main thing was just you tweaking as much as you could possibly in order to squeeze out or lower the CPA rather?
Yes, I would say that. I also did a ton of, like specifically when you're doing well and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
I'm breaking even or I'm losing money. So then you have to make drastic changes. So I did a lot of research and tried some new things. And I would say trying to lower the CPA was the main thing, as well as getting an audience that works again and seeing the type of things that work. But I would say downscaling and then specifically finding out what works first, doing it on a smaller sample size as well, and then slowly increasing the ad spend
Cool.
until you're back at it.
Nice. Thanks for that detailed explanation. Which marketing platforms do you use to drive traffic to your store?
So I primarily use Facebook, Instagram, and then I also use Google. I do search ads, and as well as I use Google to drive traffic onto my site, and then I retarget them with Facebook,
Cool.
which is I found the most success with that. So bringing in, sometimes they won't purchase right away the Google clicks, but then they'll get the picture ads on
Sure.
their Facebook or Instagram feed, which is great, and then they come back and
Okay.
purchase.
So primarily your kind of strategy is to use Google for cold traffic and then warm them up with Facebook. And
I still use cold for Facebook. I use a lot of cold as well. I would say retargeting is about 25% of my total ad spend, but it used to be way lower. And a lot of people recommend saying, oh, 5 to 10% or even 15% max for retargeting. But I think the reason which I can use more ad spend on retargeting is due to the cold traffic that I bring in from Google. That way I can spend more because I'm getting more retargeting ads going to the cold traffic visitors from Google.
Cool. And do you plan to use any other platforms in the near future?
Yeah, I want to look into Pinterest. Snapchat is interesting as well. TikTok, I think TikTok has the most potential, but for my type of store, I don't think it's very relevant. But I think it depends on the niches as well.
Yeah, sure.
Like Snapchat, even Pinterest. Like I think Pinterest would work for me,
I
but
agree.
I don't think it would work for other niches. Like right, if you're doing a toy, like why would it work on Pinterest? But
everyone's probably racking their brain. What could it be? But yeah, it's you got the different age demographics. So Facebook is kind of generally audience of 50 plus, and then Instagram's a bit lower. I mean, TikTok is generally like teens or
yeah, exactly.
Very early 20s. So and your product obviously doesn't appeal to them.
Yeah,
I'll tell you all guys later what he's selling. So
and influencer marketing. Influencer marketing is really good. Specifically, I think that's something that a lot of people, they wait and do it a lot later, because just Facebook ads itself it's a huge journey, and it's a lot of trouble and obstacles. But I think that the sooner you set up sort of a program for influencers, the faster you'll be able to branch out and diversify, which is important, because let's say you get banned from Facebook, which happens a lot, or iOS, another thing like that happens again. You don't want to rely solely on Facebook. And I think the influencer marketing strategy takes a while to implement, and it takes testing, because you need to test what openers work and how to specifically what stories or posts you want them posting. So I think the quicker you do that, the better.
Yeah, 100%. There's kind of like a learning curve, like everything, but also it is quite time consuming, especially if you have to do all the outreaching yourself and the agreements and all that stuff.
100%. Like VAs are key, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, and I take it that's what you're doing as well. Yeah, influencer. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. But initially, when you first started, you've done it all yourself before you outsourced it to VAs.
Yeah, 100%. I would do everything. I would answer emails. And I would say that was the most stressful, but well, not stressful really, but it's a drag, because you're like, I could be doing things for marketing, or I could be better, like the logistics or looking into other things. And you're just answering emails that complain about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's regardless of what business or business model you're operating, it comes to a point where you have to start outsourcing. As soon as you start becoming successful, then otherwise you'll just be stagnant. You'll be stuck in the same place. So much one person can do. The next question, you kind of answered it already. Why did you make the transition to a fulfillment company? And, correct me if I'm wrong, it's simply because you bundled products. It was important for you to have kind of a branded good customer experience where they receive everything in one parcel, as well as, better communication and just service overall.
Yeah. So, using those other companies that I was drop shipping from, it wasn't a completely bad experience, but it was just, like you said, they're huge companies and you're a very small fish in a big pond. And I thought that getting a fulfillment company that's smaller, they're handling less clients and that have way more experience would be better for me, specifically with the SKUs and as well as just getting the orders out as well. It's very important. And the communication, right? Having trust, like I don't want to wait 72 hours to get a response on something that I need to get done today. Yeah. So what I actually did was I started looking right away when I found like a bit of success. I started looking right away and I found a lot of people actually recommended Honest Fulfillment.
Okay.
So I looked into it and then it said there's a minimum order like quantity and all that stuff. And I just kept reading good stuff about it. And I know that you speak English as well, so it's kind of a draw. because you're from the UK. I saw like that you're from the UK. And I was like, okay, this is nice because he'll be able, like, we both speak English. So it was going to be a nice change. So yeah, that's really why I did it. And I just wanted to improve the customer experience because I think that's very important. That's something that I think to go to the next step, getting a fulfillment center or getting a 3PL to take care of your orders is really important.
Yeah. Just to clarify, just in case everyone's wondering, no, I don't do all of the customer service. Funnily enough, I used to, but we have obviously have a team, and there are agents, account managers who would deal with client accounts. Although in saying that, I do step in, if like Daniel, for example, messaging me saying, Phil, I want you to do this or do that, I'm not going to ignore it or brush it off to somebody else. Yeah, did you obviously when you started looking, did you compare us to anyone else? Did you almost choose another company? Or, I mean, you don't have to mention any names, but was there a process? How much research did you do?
Yeah, so I did a tons of research, but at first I was honestly kind of desperate with the wait time, specifically with Facebook feedback score, which customers review your store, and if you go below a certain score, you're banned, and then and that's it. So I just wanted, and all the complaints. So yeah, I actually compared it to a few companies. A lot of them have higher MOQs for orders, as well as I felt that's why when I asked, when I looked into it, I did a lot of research, and honestly, like a lot of people had recommended Honest Fulfillment and YouTubers in the space and all that. So I thought, okay, like this probably will be a good fit. And then my primary concern for me was, I know a lot of fulfillment centers actually only did one SKU. So for example, let's say the minimum order that you need to hit to be accepted into the 3PL or fulfillment company needs to be, let's just say 20 minimum orders. But then some companies, the way they do it is 20 orders or 10 each per SKU, right? Yeah. Which makes it difficult because if you're starting out, I feel like there is this big gap between specifically people that are just doing, let's say 5-7 orders a day, and they want to improve their logistics, but then the 3PLs have it at minimum 20 orders. And I feel like that also hurts drop shippers from taking the next step and improving.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why we've tested lots of different MOQs. I think we originally started at 20, went to 15, went to 10. We even went below 10, but it's kind of like the sweet spot where it's fair on not only us, but the clients as well. It gives drop shippers that opportunity to, test out a fulfillment company and allow them to try and scale and get a feeling of like better service and kind of bespoke service. So just to confirm, it was mainly the MOQ suited you, as well as just the recommendations from different sources?
Yeah, I would say because just like there was the other way you can go is an agent, right? So you usually the MOQs are a little lower, but I was thinking long term, the way I saw it was for the future, I want to scale hard. And I thought doing it like an agent, yes, up to a certain point. So I thought, why not skip that altogether? As well as, having, as I know the language barrier honestly is huge, and the time difference as well. And doing it with a 3PL, specifically people that can speak English, is important to me as well.
Sure.
And honestly, all the recommendations, yeah, like I kept seeing the name come up, so I decided to reach out.
Thanks. What are your short and long? We're almost there. Got a couple of more questions. What are your short and long-term goals?
So short term, my short-term goals are to continue to develop the brand and hit right now just hit 10,000 a day in sales. At that, which I think definitely, I think I'll do it by Q4, like by this Q4, and just continue to grow it and create a team and a process where we could continue to be successful and grow the brand.
Okay. And I mean, long term, are you looking to possibly sell the store, or you don't have any intentions to flip it or just go on to another store? Or?
Long term, I want to create it into a brand where someone thinks of this niche or these products and the brand name comes up.
Cool.
As well to get ODM, so original design manufacturing, now creating your own designs that no one can drop ship, which is nice. So as well as less competition with that, and better CPAs, and then also creating maybe an exit in the future. But for now, I think just taking specifically like this knowledge that you get from experience from doing the whole process, and applying it to a different product in a different store.
Yeah.
And I think creating a few quality stores, and I would say quality over quantity for me.
Cool. And specifically, I mean, do you have any plan for like Black Friday, Q4, major seasons, peak seasons, holidays? You obviously have. Obviously, I don't want to say what you're going to do exactly, but is there anything that you can possibly say which will help viewers or point them in the right direction, rather?
Yeah, well, this is my Q4, so I don't have any experience with it, but I would say from the research I've done and from what the plans are, my plan is to basically I think you need to be locked in and set a plan, like for everyone that's going through the Q4. I think you need to set a plan for beginning with October, and setting a very hard plan that you're going to follow, because it's going to get crazy, specifically with the logistics, with the ads, with the marketing strategy. So my strategy is basically just use October to test different things, sales, marketing, emails, customer retention, all that stuff, and then use that and see what works the best, and then increase it and put it at full scale for November and December. And specifically, I think starting early is important. And lots of brands last year, like the big brands who spend millions on marketing, like Walmart, Target, and Macy's, stuff like that, they started early. So I think now this year, since they were able to go through the first COVID Black Friday and Cyber Monday, that was something that smaller businesses could learn from them, as well as I think there's two ways to go through it. I think you could either do a whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday sort of month for November, right? Or the other way is do the sales and increase the sales every week. So I think there's two ways to go, but yeah.
It's definitely very smart advice, because I remember when I was doing marketing for a company in China, and it was going quite well. It was a generic product, but it was performing consistently. And as it approached, or it got to the peak seasons like Black Friday and stuff, CPA just shot up, because obviously lots of big companies, everyone's dumping their budget of ad spend into these peak peak holidays. So it's automatically going to affect the advertising costs and performance. So yeah, and what Daniel just mentioned there is really smart, because you kind of avoid that competition if you do like a pre Black Friday or a week before, 2 weeks before, even afterwards. And you've seen it, you know, even when you go into retail stores, they do extended Black Friday sales and and all that stuff.
Yeah, but one day for sale, and then the next day they're like, "Hey, we've extended the sale."
Yeah, like never ending sale.
Exactly.
So aside from that, I mean, you've given amazing pointers and advice in the whole call, but as a kind of like a general like a last tip, or any kind of advice or recommendations to e-commerce store owners or dropshippers that are kind of just starting out, is there anything in particularly, maybe one thing that you could tell them or give them a piece of solid advice?
Yeah, 100%. I think persistence is key. I would say specifically with e-commerce, just from other people that have gone into e-commerce, and you know, it honestly is very unmotivating when you're doing something and then, for example, with iOS, and then you lose your revenue goes down, you're losing money. It's very easy to quit. I think that you just need to, honestly, it sounds very cliche, but you just need to push forward and just keep going. And with all these challenges, I think that if you take it seriously and you honestly treat it as a business and do your research and keep putting time into it, it has to work, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that's key.
Yeah, I think I might have to change this question in the future as well, because the last two answers were almost exactly the same. But it's a no-brainer. It's just proof that with anything, you have to put your mind to it and kind of never give up attitude, to an extent, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and before I get to the last question, going back to the kind of Q4 plan, something I should actually input here is, when it comes to Q4, what Daniel mentioned is, it's not only, you know, your strategy or your store management and stuff like that, but it's also making sure the supply chain and the logistics are all set up and in place, because you never know when your particular product may have a supply chain issue, and you know, we can't source it. We check the whole market, and there's a huge demand. Maybe loads of dropshippers or e-commerce store owners are selling the same product, and not only that, you know, maybe there's a backlog or a big queue of orders with a supplier, or an issue with raw materials. Whatever the reason is, that is reality. Sometimes it happens. So if you've got everything all sorted, you've got your marketing campaign, your funnel, everything in place, and you're just adding budget and, you know, killing it, scaling it, but you find that there's a supply chain issue, you're pretty much screwed. So one thing I always recommend is that, and to be better be safe than sorry, is to at least get some inventory in advance for the scale up to these peak seasons and periods, because you never know what's going to happen, especially in the dropshipping space. If you don't have your own branded product, you don't have inventory, there is no supply chain. There's no guarantee of having that stock, particularly, and it's happened. I've seen it time and time again. You know, for a perfect example was when COVID happened, and all the exercise equipment, like the resistant bands, they were selling like crazy, and we literally had to call. We had an agreement with like about 6 different manufacturers, and it was literally like hotcakes. You have to, as soon as they come, you have to buy them straight away. You have to actually pay them in advance. Yeah. As soon as they've made the production, and they could only promise you, I don't know, 100 a week or something ridiculous. So yeah, if you have that luxury, if your cash flow permits, get inventory, especially if you've got the data there that you can see the last month of data, you're generating decent sales. Just wanted to add that to make it clear. So
no, yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to actually cut in, because that's 100%. That's like, honestly, even just as important as the marketing side, because that definitely will happen. And actually it just happened to me. So, well, I have enough inventory. I'm ordering in advance just due to this. So always have sort of just some inventory in case something happens. and I always order in bulk and more than I need for that reason. But actually, so I was looking into doing a huge order, right? Doing it for Q4 and adding more inventory for my next order. And my supplier actually just told me that due to the raw materials being very low and stuff, they basically said that this product is the material that it's made from is basically sold out. So he said I had to order in advance. Luckily, I have tons of product on hand. But if I had, let's just say my product's about to sell out in a couple of weeks, specifically with the numbers you're going to be doing in Q4.
Yeah.
Is so if you're selling, let's say it's about to sell in a couple of weeks, and you're kind of screwed, and you're going to have to shut off ads for all of Q4, which you definitely don't want to do. It's the most profitable time, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to chime in, and like that's basically what could happen in a really bad scenario. So yeah.
And just so that we're not confusing viewers watching this, we act as we're a sourcing, branding, fulfillment company. Some clients use us for as a 3PL, just for fulfillment. Some use us for sourcing, bulk sending to wherever, UK, whatever. And others use us for everything, sourcing, branding and fulfillment. So we would manage everything for them. Okay, so yeah, the last question probably doesn't apply to you, but do you offer any services at all? So this is your chance to kind of plug anything that you might. So, for example, do you offer marketing services, or if someone's interested in what you mentioned about influencer marketing, is there any way they can contact you for you to kind of consult them and stuff like that?
No, I currently don't offer any services, unfortunately. I was looking maybe into it like down in a year, helping people out, because honestly, I think it is, again, it sounds corny, but it is pretty rewarding, helping people, and I think it's really cool. But no, at the moment, I don't give out any advice.
Sure.
I give free advice if anyone wants.
Don't say that. your inbox is going to be flooded.
Yeah, no.
I won't put any contact information. Whoever wants to ask any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll reply if we can. And if there's anything specific that needs to be directed to Daniel, we'll make sure we do that.
I'll comment on the video as well.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Daniel. Glad we managed to do this interview. And yeah, I mean, we'll speak again on the 8th. For those who don't know, it's Chinese holiday, National China Day. I'm not sure the official term, but we're off until the 8th. So yeah, 8th of October, and yeah, we'll speak again then.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as well, and it was great, honestly, really fun. Talk soon.
Agreed. Okay, see you, Daniel. Take care.
Take care, Phil.
Bye.
Bye.